Sadly, there has been two cases of coronavirus that have been reported in Canada, and both of them are in the Toronto area here where I am. I want to, first of all, pray for the individuals, hope that they get a speedy recovery, and hopefully, the family can bear what God, the Lord Almighty, has in store for them. But first of all, I think that this virus that we're talking about, we really need to be very, very careful when it comes to these viruses. It's very strange how at the beginning of each 20th decade, of each the 20s and the decades, the 1820s, the 1920s, and the 2020s, there's always a big virus. Everyone at the beginning of that decade, the 20s, at the beginning of the 20s in every century, there's a big virus. So we have to really be careful. It's times like this that we have to be vigilant, figure out what is going on, what is our government up to, are they going to come up with a vaccine, and if they do come up with a vaccine, we have to ask questions, what is in the vaccine? Apparently, the coronavirus, and I've heard this, in fact, I have the report right here, and I want to share this with you because Arana Nation means information, all information, every single piece of information. The Daily Mail has reported that China's top virus lab is in Wuhan, the center of the outbreak. So that is where the coronavirus started, and they have a very big, huge a virus lab there. So we have to be very vigilant. But I am suggesting, until this thing has stopped, and to prevent any more outbreaks, I am suggesting that the government of Canada closes the all entry into Canada from China. And anybody who's deciding to go to China from Canada has to vow never to return to Canada until the coronavirus has been dealt with. That's what I'm advocating for. It's not racist. It's not xenophobic. I'm not. It's just not. I'm not saying I'm doing this because look. I mean, I go walk the streets and I see people in fear right now. There are people with masks on, and I'm in the Toronto area, and there's a lot of Chinese people in the Toronto area. And I'm not saying all of them have this. I'm not saying that, okay? But here's the thing. In 2003, I believe it was 2003, we had something called SARS. Many people died because of SARS. We dealt with that situation very badly. And Toronto was very badly hit by SARS. We were massacred by SARS. I wasn't living in Toronto at the time. I was in Nova Scotia at the time. But I remember hearing about SARS. It was bad. It was vicious. And it's that same political correct thinking that made SARS be so out of control. You know, we have to stop being politically correct. When there's a problem coming from a leaky faucet, what do? You seal it up. You don't tear it open even more and make more things happen. It's not my fault that this disease came from China. If it came from Sweden, if it came from England, if it came from America, I would say the same thing. If it came from America, I would say no more entry into Canada for Americans. Close the border until the situation has been dealt with. You know, and this is a message also to the Chinese government. They need to make sure that whatever they're doing over there, they make sure that they fix this. Okay? Because, you know, we've got a large Chinese population, and we have to protect them as well. I mean, what if, you know, Aunt Ching or Aunt Chung or Grandma, whatever comes down to Markham or something, wants to visit her family in Markham, and you know, she doesn't know she has SARS. She comes from some village that has SARS, not SARS, the coronavirus, and she gives it to her kids here in Canada, her grandkids here in Canada, or her nieces and nephews in Canada. We have to protect the Chinese population here too. That's why I'm suggesting this. So I think that Canada needs to close its border to China. No entry from China. Wherever you are, if you're a Canadian and you are in China, you stay right. I mean, if you're a Canadian, you gotta stay right where you are until this thing has been dealt with. The last thing we need is another SARS. I think we might have one of the largest Chinese populations in Toronto outside of China. So, this thing is it's going to affect us. This isn't Liechtenstein or Belize or Monaco, or if there was a disease in Monaco, I'd be advocating the same thing. But let's be honest, or Belize. But let's be honest. First of all, I don't think there are a lot of Belizeans in Canada, or people from Monaco or Liechtenstein. And so I think if the whole population of Monaco were to come to Canada with a disease, we wouldn't even feel a thing. That would be nothing. But China, that's billions of people. And there are a lot of Chinese people in the greater Toronto area, and they have families back at home who want to see them. And if they were to come, and if they come in droves, which they do, and, if 2 out of 10 Chinese people come to Toronto, and a lot of them are in Toronto, come to Toronto alone, that's almost half the population is at risk, I think. And if let's say 4 out of 10 Chinese people come and 2 out of 10 of them are sick with the coronavirus, that's almost half the population of Toronto that's going to be at risk. I'm telling you. So I think we should close it off. I'm not being bad. I'm not doing any of that. It's safety. I think we should close it off. No one in China come to Canada, or no one in Canada go to China unless they decide they're going to stay there until this situation has been dealt with. This is the Arana Nation.